The next part of thinking like a scientist is that knowing that scientific knowledge can change. Our understanding of the world is constantly developing and constantly improving. So our example here is Barbara McClintock, who is a geneticist, and she was able to, so when we talk about cells coming up, some of those ideas about cells are hundreds of years old. But we know a lot more now, and we have a much more refined and very sophisticated understanding of cells than scientists did 500 years ago. So that science is subject to change. To draw a little picture, the example picture here is of a cell that, we know that this is a cell, and then kind of a zoom in of mitochondria, which is an organelle that's inside of the cell, which we're also going to learn about soon. So we start out with some knowledge, and then our knowledge, it changes or improves. The next element, or the nature of science, is to know that science is a complex social activity. So our example is Niels Bohr, who put together a whole team of physicists to understand how an atom is constructed. Number one, what it is an atom, and number two, how does it work? What are all the parts? Niels Bohr developed a model of an atom that we still use today, or a version of that model. We still use the little picture you can draw in here. The example is a whole team of little people. Absolutely, right there. And the last element of the nature of science, the last thing to consider when you're thinking like a scientist, is to identify your bias and avoid it as much as possible. Humans are humans. We all have biases. Some of them we know and some of them we don't. Now, our example scientist is my new favorite. His name is Dr. Charles Drew, and he was in charge of blood transfusions for the Red Cross during World War II. And what we know about war and World War II is that there are lots of injuries, and you are bleeding a lot. One of the things you might need in order to help survive is blood. And that blood comes from other people. During World War II, and the Red Cross had a policy where the blood that the patient receives must come from a person who identifies with the same skin color. That means a patient who is white can only receive blood from a donor. A patient who is black could only receive blood from a donor who is black. Now, some of you might be thinking, oh, is that something about blood types? Is there a difference or something? And the answer is no. You are right that blood types are a thing. And that is what we do need to consider when giving blood transfusions. We all might have a different type, but the color of our skin has nothing to do with that. Now, Dr. Drew understood that seems fairly insane and worked really hard to try to figure out, and it turns out, nope, it's just straight up racism. There is no scientific reason for it. The Red Cross had a deeply held bias, and Dr. Drew was able to prove, no, that is not science, that is bias. That is unfounded, that's just the way that your brains are thinking right now, and it has nothing to do with actual science. So because of him, that policy was eventually changed. There are lots of biases in the world that we hold, whether we know it or not, that are baked into systems because that's just. But science changes and improves our understanding of the world around us. So when we're thinking like scientists, you need to do your best to notice where are your own biases and to be willing to question it. is that thing that I think, is that actually based in science, in actual real life? So you might draw, to help you remember this story and this example, you might draw a little drop of blood or a vial or maybe a red cross. And now your notes, you should have a completed set of notes with actual pictures for each box. And hopefully you will start to notice times in your life when you are thinking like a scientist,